Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we help you understand those big, important ideas without having to wade through all the extra stuff. We take the sources you're interested in and we pull out the really key knowledge, that stuff that's actually going to stick with you. So you can walk away feeling informed and ready to put those ideas into action, no more feeling overwhelmed.
It's like we're giving you the cheat sheet to becoming well-read.
Exactly.
And today, we're diving deep into a book that a lot of you have been asking about, Getting Rich Your Own Way by Tracy. I mean, this book has really resonated with people. It's been translated into 25 languages.
Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. And there's this really powerful idea at its core that anyone in America today, no matter where they're starting from, can actually achieve significant wealth.
Yeah, and that's what we're really digging into today. What are those core principles? What are the actual steps that Tracy lays out that can help people achieve that financial independence and build some lasting wealth? All right, here in America, we'll be looking at where a lot of self-made millionaires come from, those sort of essential rules for success that he identifies, his guidelines for building a thriving business, and even his perspective on investing.
And for you, our listener, we know you're all about getting valuable knowledge, and you want it quickly, you want it thoroughly, so we're aiming for those light bulb moments, those aha moments that really stick with you.
Yeah, those ones that you're thinking about even after the episode is over.
Exactly.
All while keeping things super clear and avoiding information overload, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's just jump right into it. One of the core messages that comes across right away in Tracy's book is this fundamental possibility of becoming wealthy. Like, he really believes that anyone, over the course of their working life, can achieve wealth. But he doesn't say it just magically happens. He says it takes consistent effort and applying the right strategies.
Right, it's not just wishing and hoping.
No, and to really illustrate this point, he throws out the statistic. Someone in America becomes a millionaire roughly every 4 minutes.
Every 4 minutes.
Every 4 minutes. So that should really show you, as a listener, that it's not some impossible feat.
It's happening all the time.
It's happening all the time.
It's not a rare event.
Right, and this is all within the American economy. So it really emphasizes that the opportunity is there. It's not about some people being inherently more capable or anything like that.
And he really emphasizes that point, that no one's born with a special wealth gene, right?
Exactly. It's about actions. Specific actions get specific results.
That's where he introduces this whole idea of the law of cause and effect in this wealth-building context.
Yeah.
That idea that if you consistently do what successful, wealthy individuals do, then chances are you're going to get similar results.
Right. It's not some magic formula. It's about understanding the actions that create wealth.
Cause and effect.
Exactly. And Tracy's not just theorizing here. He's worked with so many people from all different backgrounds, many of whom started with a lot of debt, who've gone on to become financially independent by using these principles. So it's not just some pie in the sky idea.
Right. It's a proven system.
Right. So this naturally leads to the question, well, if this potential for wealth is so widespread, then why are so many people struggling to achieve it, especially in a country with so much economic activity?
Yeah, that's a great question.
So Tracy, he explores several key hurdles, several obstacles. The first one he points out is procrastination. It's putting off saving and investing. It's that whole I'll start next month or maybe when I get a raise kind of thinking.
Yeah, I think we're all familiar with that.
Oh yeah, putting things off until later. But what he stresses is that delay, that procrastination, just pushes those financial goals further and further into the future. And then for a lot of people, they just never get started.
And it can be so easy to fall into that trap, especially when there always seems to be something more pressing or urgent. Right?
Exactly.
But as Tracy emphasizes, delaying those crucial actions is actually costing you in the long run.
It really is.
Now, closely linked to procrastination is this inability to delay gratification.
Ah, yes, that instant gratification.
It's that urge to spend all the money you earn, sometimes even more than you earn, through borrowing and credit cards and things like that.
Well, oh yeah, I know that trap well.
And Tracy shares this really powerful quote from W. Clement Stone. He says, "If you cannot save money, the seeds of greatness are not in you."
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It's kind of a stark reminder, isn't it?
Yeah.
About the self-control that's absolutely foundational to building wealth.
It really drives home the point that building wealth requires a long-term perspective and the discipline to say no to certain things today so that you can benefit in the future. You just can't keep spending everything you make and expect to become financially independent.
It's about making those choices now that your future self will thank you for.
Exactly. And the third big obstacle Tracy points to is this lack of a long-term perspective.
So it's not just about delaying gratification. It's actually about thinking about the future in a very deliberate way.
Yeah. So he contrasts this with some pretty interesting examples. He talks about how upper-class families in England will enroll their children in prestigious universities like Oxford or Cambridge literally at birth.
Wow.
So they're thinking decades ahead.
That's some serious long-term planning.
Right. It's like they're playing a whole different game. And he also uses the example of a doctor who invests years and years in education for a future payoff. And he contrasts this with someone who's struggling with addiction where their time horizon shrinks down to just getting that next fix. It's really about how long are you thinking ahead?
That's a really powerful comparison.
So Tracy argues that just by simply extending your personal time horizon, consciously thinking 10, 20 years into the future, it can fundamentally change your attitude and your decision making. It lets you set those bigger, longer-term financial goals and make your daily choices with that future in mind.
So it's about taking that step back and looking at the big picture, not just what's right in front of you.
Exactly.
So we've talked about the possibility of wealth and some of the obstacles, but now let's get into the actual ways people create wealth. What are those avenues? And the biggest one that Tracy talks about is entrepreneurship.
Starting and building your own business.
Right. And he gives us this pretty compelling statistic. He says 74% of self-made millionaires in America over the past 2 centuries got their wealth through owning a business.
Wow.
It's a pretty impressive number.
That's huge. So we're talking about people like Henry Ford, Andrew Carnegie, Jacob Van Astor.
Right, those iconic figures who built their fortunes from the ground up.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the types of businesses he talks about, they span a huge range. So it's not just one specific industry or one type of business.
He mentions traditional areas like farming, manufacturing, but also modern sectors like real estate and technology.
And the second major source of wealth that he highlights is something you might not immediately think of. It's working for a large, growing company.
Interesting.
Yeah, so he uses the example of those early employees at Microsoft who got stock
He
options.
became incredibly wealthy as the company grew.
Exactly. And he also mentions senior executives who can earn a lot through bonuses and profit sharing.
So it's about positioning yourself within a successful organization so you can benefit from its growth.
Right, it's kind of riding that wave of success.
Exactly.
The third avenue that Tracy talks about is starting and developing a profitable business or occupation. And the key word there is profitable.
Profit.
So he explains that profit, or what he calls added value, it's the difference between what it costs you to produce something and the price that a customer is willing to pay for it. And it's that profit, that difference, that forms the building block of wealth.
So it's not just about bringing in money, it's about making sure you're making more than you spend.
Exactly. So for you as a listener, the question becomes, are you currently engaged in a business or occupation that's actually generating a profit? Are you bringing in more than you're putting out?
That's the fundamental question.
It really is.
Yeah.
And then Tracy gets into this really interesting concept that he calls developing leverage.
Leverage, that's a powerful word.
It is. And he defines leverage as anything that magnifies your worth and the value of what you contribute.
So it's about amplifying your efforts and your results. And he breaks this down into several different categories. The first being knowledge. It's about becoming a real expert in your field, aiming to be in that top 10% of people who really know their stuff.
Right. Specializing, using that 80-20 rule to focus on those high-impact areas, and being a lifelong learner.
Continuous learning, always growing and expanding your knowledge base.
Because the idea is that when you have that superior knowledge, you can get better results more efficiently. That makes your skills and your services way more valuable, and people are going to want to pay for that.
Absolutely. And Tracy's a big advocate for constantly reading, taking courses, listening to educational programs. He sees that as a direct investment in your earning potential.
So for those of you out there who are always looking for ways to level up, keep learning, keep growing that knowledge base, the second form of leverage is skills.
This is about being really good at what you do.
Yeah, being excellent and always striving to improve.
And he really highlights that difference in earnings between those top performers and the average folks. In any field, those at the top, they tend to earn significantly more.
Yeah, and it's not always about natural talent.
No, it's about making that decision to pursue excellence, that commitment to personal and professional development. It's about actively looking for ways to refine and enhance your abilities.
Always working on your craft.
Exactly.
Okay, so the third form of leverage is ideas. And he acknowledges how powerful a money-making idea can be, but he wisely cautions that ideas need to be funded and implemented effectively to actually turn into something real.
So it's not just about having a great idea, it's about what you do with it.
Exactly. You've got to have the resources and the ability to execute, because even the most brilliant idea, if it just stays an idea, it's not going to generate any wealth.
So it's about taking action, putting those ideas into motion.
Exactly. And fourth on the list is contacts.
Networking, knowing the right people.
Yeah, and being known by them. Tracy suggests that the quality and the extent of your professional network, it can be even more important than almost anything else when it comes to success.
And it makes sense, right? A well-timed introduction or connection can really change the course of your career or business.
Oh yeah, it's about recognizing the power of relationships.
Absolutely.
So the fifth form of leverage is reputation. This is about being known as someone who delivers results.
Someone who gets things done.
Exactly. And Tracy argues that developing that reputation, being reliable, consistently exceeding expectations, it can put you on the fast track to success.
It's about building that trust and that credibility.
Right. And then there's positive mental attitude. Having a positive, optimistic outlook, Tracy says, can really help you influence and persuade people.
And that's so important in business.
Oh, yeah, it's all about connecting with people. And then closely related to that is communication skills.
Being able to articulate your ideas, influence, persuade, sell your services.
He even talks about Peter Drucker, who said that meetings, presentations, and written work, those are the three key tools for executives. So those communication skills, those are things you can learn and develop.
It's about honing those skills, becoming a better communicator.
Right. It's not something you're just born with.
And Tracy talks about luck as the eighth form of leverage, but it's not just about random chance.
No, he qualifies it. He says luck is often a byproduct of activity.
So the more active you are, the more you put yourself out there, the more lucky you tend to become.
It's like increasing the odds of bumping into opportunity.
Exactly. The more you do, the more likely you are to stumble upon those lucky breaks.
Right. Number 9 is energy. Successful people, he observes, they just tend to have higher levels of energy. They can work longer hours. They plan their days more effectively.
They're often up and running well before the average person.
Early bird.
Early birds get the worm, as they say. And this highlights the importance of stamina, both physical and mental. Cultivating good habits like waking up early, planning your day, it can give you a real edge.
Absolutely. And finally, the 10th form of leverage is choosing the right occupation. So Tracy stresses the importance of choosing a field that actually has potential for wealth creation. And he notices that self-discipline is a common trait among those who make this choice wisely.
So it's about aligning your career aspirations with your financial goals.
Right. So as you can see, leverage, it's not just about finances. It's about a whole range of personal and professional attributes that can really amplify your wealth building journey.
It's about those things that can give you a real boost.
And then Tracy moves on to the power of thinking. And he emphasizes that focusing your mind on those ideas of wealth and prosperity, it tends to attract positive outcomes, while dwelling on money worries can create this negative cycle.
It's like your thoughts create a kind of mental force field, either attracting opportunity or repelling it.
Right. And that leads right into what he calls the law of accumulation, which he breaks down into 3 key areas: knowledge, money, and experience.
So these are the things you want to be constantly accumulating.
Right. And regarding knowledge, we already talked about that. It's power, it's crucial for leverage.
And it's about constantly building that foundation of knowledge. It's a gradual process.
Brick by brick.
Exactly.
Then there's money. And the law of accumulation here is pretty simple. Spend less than you earn.
Sounds so straightforward.
It does, but you'd be surprised how many people don't follow it.
Yeah, it's easier said than done.
But Tracy really stresses the importance of starting to save right away, no matter how small the amount, because even that small act of saving, it can start to create that magnetic force that attracts more money.
It's about developing that habit and that mindset.
And he even shares a personal story about a time when he lost everything financially and had to sell his house. It really highlights the importance of having that financial safety net.
It's a powerful reminder of why saving is so crucial.
And the third area of accumulation is experience. Successful people, he observes, they just have more experience in their field. And that leads to better pattern recognition and the ability to make those faster, more informed decisions.
It's about learning from your mistakes through trial and error and building that expertise over time.
And Tracy also talks about the 10,000-hour rule, that idea that it takes that much dedicated practice to really master a skill.
It's a reminder that mastery takes time and consistent effort.
Exactly. And then he gets into the power of goals, and he says that when you set a clear goal to become wealthy, it changes the whole game.
Everything you do either helps you move toward that goal or it hinders your progress. There's no middle ground.
Right, it's like you're suddenly playing with a new set of rules.
And Tracy talks about this shift from positive thinking to what he calls positive knowing. It's about cultivating that deep belief in your ability to achieve your financial success. It's more than just wishing or hoping, it's that firm conviction.
Yeah, it's like knowing in your gut that you're going to get there. And then he gets into willpower and self-mastery. And he says that willpower is essential for achieving anything worthwhile. And he has this great quote from Zig Ziglar. He says, "If you are hard on yourself, life will be easy on you. But if you insist on being easy on yourself, life is going to be very hard on you."
Oh, I like that.
It's a powerful reminder that discipline is key.
It's about making those choices that align with your goals, even when they're not easy.
And another crucial prerequisite, according to Tracy, is simply wanting it badly enough.
Having that burning desire to achieve wealth.
Yeah, and he quotes Bernard Baruch, who said, "The first requisite for making a lot of money is to want to make a lot of money."
It's about that clear, decisive commitment.
And backing it up with action.
So it's not just about thinking about it, it's about taking those steps, putting in the work.
Exactly. And that leads right into mental programming for success. So Tracy talks about using treasure maps, also known as vision boards, as visual reminders of your financial goals.
So it's about creating a visual representation of your financial aspirations.
Yeah, constantly feeding your subconscious mind with those images, those words.
It's about surrounding yourself with those reminders.
And he also talks about the importance of controlling your inner dialogue
Being aware of that self-talk.
and consciously replacing those negative thoughts with positive affirmations.
Things like, I can do it, or I am on my way to making $1 million.
It's about shifting that internal narrative.
And he also emphasizes feeding your mind with positive and educational content.
Always be learning, right?
Exactly. He even talks about drive time learning, turning your commute into an educational opportunity.
Love that.
Make the most of that time.
And he talks about the importance of your reference groups.
The people you surround yourself with.
And he says to choose to associate with positive and successful people and distance yourself from those negative influences.
It's about surrounding yourself with people who lift you up and support your goals.
And then there's visualization. Vividly imagining your goals as already accomplished.
Especially right before you go to sleep and when you wake up.
Powerful times of day.
It's about programming your subconscious mind.
And then finally, habit formation. Tracy says a huge percentage of our daily actions are governed by habits, so it's about identifying and developing those good habits.
Like starting each day with a productive routine.
Right. So it's about those consistent actions that can lead to big results over time.
Building those positive habits, that's key.
And then Tracy lays out what he calls the 4 Ds of success: desire, decision, determination, and discipline.
4 powerful words.
So desire is that burning desire for financial independence, really wanting it. Decision, making that firm, unwavering decision to become wealthy. Determination, the commitment to persist through any obstacle. And discipline, the self-mastery to develop those success habits.
So it's about having that right mindset and level of commitment.
Right, and then he talks about choosing the right vehicle for wealth creation.
The path you're going to take.
So one option is becoming a highly valued executive within a large corporation.
Working your way up the ladder.
Yeah, taking advantage of that existing structure and resources. And another is becoming a successful professional, like a doctor, lawyer, consultant.
But he does caution that in those roles, your income is often tied to your active work.
So you have to be really smart about investing.
Holding those passive income streams.
And then, of course, there's entrepreneurship, starting and growing your own business.
That entrepreneurial spirit, it's a big part of American culture.
And historically, it's been one of the biggest paths to wealth for people who started with little.
It's the classic story of rags to riches.
And then Tracy gets into some of the core financial strategies that wealthy people use.
The habits and practices that contribute to their success.
So the first one is the fundamental principle of pay yourself first.
Saving at least 10% of every dollar you earn.
No matter what, right off the top,
It's about prioritizing your future financial well-being.
before anything else. And then there's hard work and saving consistently. He really highlights that connection between those two things and building wealth.
It's about putting in the effort and being consistent with your savings habits,
And finally, he recommends a cautious and conservative approach to investing.
focusing on paying down debt, investing in those income-producing assets that offer slow and steady growth over time.
It's about taking a long-term perspective and not getting caught up in those high-risk, get-rich-quick schemes.
Patience and consistency, that's the key.
Now shifting gears to understanding business success.
The nuts and bolts of building a thriving business.
So Tracy says that two essential abilities for any entrepreneur are effective marketing and skillful selling.
Those are the core skills you need to get your product or service out into the world.
And he really stresses that even basic sales skills can be learned.
You don't have to be a natural salesperson to be successful.
It's a skill you can develop.
And along with that, he talks about the importance of getting along with people.
Building relationships, creating a positive environment.
It's about those soft skills, being able to connect with people, build trust.
And when it comes to identifying those business opportunities, he talks about several different methods. Looking for ways to improve existing products or services, finding those widespread problems that people are facing and solving them, exploring franchises, considering mail-order businesses.
He even talks about the potential of internet-based businesses.
And he also advises starting small, reinvesting profits, testing those ideas before making huge investments.
And of course, hiring the right people is crucial.
And he lays out some key principles for selecting a product or service. Making sure it fills a genuine need, offering something that's unique and superior to the competition, ensuring there's a large enough market for it.
And carefully considering the cost of acquiring each customer.
So it's about doing your due diligence, really understanding the market.
Absolutely. And then he talks about some essential business practices, maintaining tight financial controls, budgeting, focusing on marketing your offerings, prioritizing customer acquisition and retention.
It's about the fundamentals of running a successful business.
Those core principles that can make or break a company.
And he stresses the importance of developing a comprehensive business plan.
Having that roadmap.
It forces you to analyze every aspect of your venture, helps you identify those weaknesses before you invest a ton of money.
It's about being prepared and having a clear strategy.
And then there's determination and persistence.
Not giving up when things get tough.
Because building a successful business, it takes time, it takes resilience. He says venture capitalists often prioritize the character of the founders, their ability to persevere.
It's about having that grit, that determination to see things through.
And when it comes to finding those new product and service ideas, he suggests scanning industry publications, looking at foreign publications to see what's happening internationally.
Attending trade shows, talking to distributors, even considering buying existing businesses, but doing your due diligence.
And testing those ideas is key. He talks about getting feedback from potential customers, conducting small-scale tests, using trade shows to gauge interest.
It's about validating those ideas before you go all in.
And then Tracy gets into unlocking your creative thinking.
Tapping into that creative potential.
And he starts by talking about the things that block creativity.
Things like fear of failure, staying in your comfort zone, what he calls mechanical thinking, negative emotions, justifying unproductive behaviors.
It's about recognizing those mental blocks.
And then finding ways to overcome them.
He offers several ways to stimulate your creativity. Asking insightful questions, feeding your mind with stimulating content, combining seemingly unrelated ideas, practicing creative visualization, and even learning to laugh at yourself.
It's about breaking free from those conventional thought patterns.
And he talks about qualities often associated with genius, but he believes they can be learned and developed. Imagination, intuition, curiosity.
It's an empowering perspective that these qualities are not fixed.
And he gives some specific techniques, like thinking about the future and then working backward, doing sentence completion exercises, brainstorming, asking what-if questions, visualizing ideal outcomes.
It's about having those tools and techniques to generate new ideas.
And he emphasizes that ideas alone are not enough. He quotes Thomas Edison saying, "Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration."
It's about taking action, putting in the work to turn those ideas into reality.
Then Tracy gets into the power of sales and marketing. And he says that everyone in business is involved in selling in some way.
And that selling is a skill that can be learned and improved.
It's not something you're just born with.
And he lists all sorts of different selling methods: direct sales, retail stores, telephone sales, direct mail, internet, catalogs, manufacturers' reps, agents, brokers.
Even multi-level marketing, party plans, trade shows.
And he emphasizes that if you're not good at selling and you're not willing to learn, you're going to be dependent on others for your income.
So it's about taking ownership of that skill.
Absolutely. And he even talks about Tom Watson Sr., who built IBM into this massive company, with a strong focus on selling and supporting his sales force.
It's a powerful example of how a sales-oriented culture can drive success.
And he also talks about advertising and publicity, getting your phone ringing with potential customers.
Making sure your message is newsworthy, targeting the right audience, using the right media channels.
It's about getting the word out there effectively.
Then he talks about learning from the best. And he says it's much better to learn from the mistakes of others than to make all those mistakes yourself.
It's about finding mentors, studying case studies, learning from those who have already achieved success.
He also lists some qualities of outstanding people, like being goal-oriented, striving to be a top performer, letting go of the past, focusing on results, being optimistic.
These are qualities we can all cultivate.
He recommends looking for unmet needs as a way to find those business opportunities.
Finding those gaps in the market.
And he also talks about modeling successful people and companies, studying their strategies, their pricing, their features, their channels, their policies.
It's about learning from the best and then striving to be even better.
Then he gets into financing your business.
The often daunting task of finding the capital to get your business off the ground.
So he talks about different sources of capital, personal savings, borrowing from various sources, customer financing options, supplier credit, small business loans.
Leasing, bootstrapping, even public and private stock offerings.
And he talks about what banks typically look for when evaluating loan applications: collateral, character, credit rating.
So it's important to have a good credit history and a strong business plan.
And when it comes to choosing the right business and location, he suggests looking at the fastest growing industries and metropolitan areas.
Places with strong economic potential.
But he also points out that many successful businesses started with very limited resources.
It's not always about having a lot of money to begin with.
And then he gets into real estate, getting rich in real estate, and he introduces what he calls the great law of real estate. You make your profit when you buy, not when you sell.
It's about finding those undervalued properties.
And he lays out several key factors to evaluate: location, condition, supply and demand, economic factors, population trends, government influences, financing availability, interest rates, property taxes, insurance costs, maintenance costs, utility costs, management costs, appreciation potential.
It's a lot to consider.
But he emphasizes doing your research, understanding the market.
Absolutely. And he talks about evaluating neighborhoods, checking crime statistics, school quality, looking for signs of stability and growth.
And he even warns about those staged visits, those times when they try to hide the negative aspects of a property.
Like scheduling a viewing when a nearby train isn't running.
Exactly. And he covers the different approaches to appraising property value: the market approach, the cost approach, the income approach.
Different ways to determine what a property is worth.
And he talks about negotiating real estate purchases, making those lowball offers, being patient.
It's a negotiation after all.
And he talks about increasing property value through improvements, focusing on curb appeal, fireplaces, bathrooms.
But he also cautions against over-improving, spending more than you're likely to recoup.
And then there's leverage in real estate, using borrowed money to amplify your returns.
But of course, leverage also comes with increased risk.
And he mentions the law of 100 in real estate, looking at a lot of properties before making an offer.
It's about being selective and finding the right deal.
And he talks about finding income-producing properties: newspapers, foreclosures, auctions, brokers.
It's about knowing where to look.
And he gives advice on evaluating apartment buildings, looking at the rents, operating costs, cash flow, return on investment.
It's about running the numbers and understanding the financials.
He even talks about common mistakes, like high vacancy rates and poor management.
Those things can really eat into your profits.
Then he talks about investing your money in general.
Beyond real estate.
And he emphasizes the importance of a solid financial foundation: adequate insurance, a liquid emergency fund.
Having that safety net.
And he recommends safe and liquid investments like money market accounts, savings accounts, CDs.
For preserving capital and earning a modest return.
And he takes a cautious view of the stock market, describing it as high risk and even a zero-sum game.
It's not for the faint of heart.
He advises against trying to outsmart the experts, and he suggests considering mutual funds.
For a more diversified approach.
And he warns against the greater fool theory, buying something just because you think someone else will pay more for it later.
It's a risky strategy.
He talks about financial representatives who are often paid on commission and venture capitalists who prioritize management quality when investing in new companies.
It's about being aware of potential biases and understanding the